Well, hello, everybody. I am attorney Michael Eline. As you know, hopefully by now, I am an attorney licensed in both California and Texas. I have a background in criminal defense, appellate law, and currently I do catastrophic personal injury claims, typically involving motorcycle accidents and brain injuries. However, we also do handle cases involving police abuse, police shootings, tied handcuff cases. And many of the leads that we get from people are cases that don't really qualify to do a full-blown civil rights lawsuit because of the lack of physical injury, the lack of documentary medical evidence, or just simply the personality of the victim themselves would make it to where a jury may not like the person very much, whereas you might be better off with a trial by judge, maybe bringing the case in a different forum. So first of all, I wanted to thank everybody for showing up in the sidebar. Thank you, Jody Shiloh, for making it. And as always, Chevy and Let's OTVO. I know that it's a Sunday and this is not exactly the best day to do a show, but I don't really have a lot of time. I think Monday I'm going to be putting in probably a 14 or 15 hour day trying to get documents ready. So I wanted to put in as much work as I could this weekend. So at least I would have material to work from, maybe make some shorts or some videos later on out of this big old live stream that I'm doing. But I really wanted to, and also do a cool video about my book too, because I don't really have anything to really show people like what the book is about and all that stuff, like how to become a lawyer with no law school or undergrad. So I'm going to put all that, hey, Jeff, good seeing you, buddy. Yeah, right on, Jeff. Yeah, I'm here too, man. So, you know, I get these calls and a lot of people get really angry. You know, hey, you won't take my case. Yeah, I could give you $1,000. And it's like, dude, I don't handle hourly work. I don't do cases like that. I do contingency fee work. But if I can't take your case, then I'll try to help you find someone. And I keep trying to tell people that. But there's another solution that may work for you. And, you know, in California, I probably have helped maybe 400 people to take a really low impact soft tissue claim that no lawyer would help them with and turn it into money for them with the small claims case. So I taught people, just like I try to teach you guys how to become a lawyer. I taught people how to build their books of evidence, how to do all this different stuff. And then I did a retainer with them that if they won and get reversed on appeal, well, now that goes up into the civil court, that I would handle the appeal for them. And so that's the way I would do those cases. And yeah, and I would win those appeals, and that's how I would make my fee. But I always came up with creative solutions because I remember I wasn't always a lawyer, and it was very hard to become a lawyer without the prerequisite undergrad and, you know, the UCLA or USC degree and all that. I had to learn by working with judges and lawyers and studying under lawyers in law offices as a certified law student, doing trials and doing depositions and just practicing law basically under a lawyer. That's how I learned. So a little bit different. So because of that insight that I have of having done it myself for so long, having my own businesses and being a paralegal, doing all the legal work for my own businesses, I was able to help these people. And I just had an epiphany moment when I had a call with this lady who was really upset because I'm not returning calls in a timely fashion, which is my mistake, my fault. I take 1,000% responsibility for that. Just overwhelmed, guys, because I normally don't handle calls from clients unless they're in active litigation. My office would do all that. But since these are people from YouTube and I know they have unique cases that my firm generally doesn't handle, I was trying to, you know, field these cases and try to find homes for them. But a lot of people get upset. Well, why won't you take my cases? You know, is there something wrong with me? And no, that's not the case at all. It's just that I'm not geared to handle certain cases. And so I wanted to teach you guys a little bit about Texas and California. Now, oh, thanks, Crispy Bacon. Well, we try, and not everybody we're able to help, but I certainly, my reputation matters to me, and I certainly don't want people to, if they come to me, I want to make sure I can offer them something other than just a no. I don't want to be Dr. No, right? Hey, good seeing you, SWE Observer. Yes, good day, my Swedish friend. And let me see here. So we got these guys. All right. So let's talk a little bit about small claims first, and then I'm going to go into some procedural stuff with the lawyer reaction video that I'm going to do based on this guy, Chris Haskins. He has this video that he did, which I think is really impressive. So the first thing that I want to get into is, look, I get it. You have a civil rights case, a cop punched you, falsely arrested you. You want to bring it as a civil rights case because you heard someone on YouTube say it's a civil rights violation, and it probably is. The problem is, to bring a civil rights case is very expensive. And if you don't have catastrophic injuries, which most of you don't, usually it's that you're upset that the police arrested you, but you don't have a physical injury. You're claiming a psychological injury, but yet you didn't ever go to a psychiatrist or a psychologist. So you have zero evidence to prove any of this. But yet you just think that I'm going to take your case and get you a bunch of money. Not happening. It will never happen because you didn't build your case properly. So we'll get into how to build a case in another episode. But if you do have a semblance of a case and it's too expensive, or a lawyer won't touch it because they realize that you're just not a good client for them, it's not a match, you should consider small claims court. Now, can you bring a federal civil rights claim in small claims court? Well, of course not. Small claims is more designed towards, well, first of all, small claims has a monetary limit. It discourages the use of attorneys. And so because it's such a complex area of law, you'd really need a lawyer. So I just bringing a federal case in small claims court, I don't think it's going to happen, guys. I have not found any case law I've tried to shepherdize that says that you could bring a federal civil rights claim in small claims court, but you could bring all kinds of other claims. And that's what I'm trying to get at. So you don't have to sue the officer for civil rights. You could still sue for battery. You could still sue for false imprisonment, negligence. There's a lot of things you could sue a cop for. Now, whether or not you're going to prevail in small claims court without a lawyer, well, that's debatable. Who knows? But you probably could if you're somewhat decent and you're on my channel and you're learning, because that's what I try to do, is teach you all about evidence and all that stuff, procedure, so you have a basic understanding of the general principles of law. Now, you'd want to familiarize yourself with federal and state civil rights laws, the key federal laws, the Civil Rights Act, the ADA, before you decide whether or not you want to go to small claims or not, right? Because you may want to bring this bad chicken in a federal court. You definitely want to document everything you want to collect and organize all the evidence, keep detailed records of incidents, including dates, times, and witnesses. You want to save any correspondence. See, a lot of people don't do that. They just call a lawyer and they'll say, hey, you need to help me. And I'll ask them for evidence and they'll say, well, I don't have any of that. And I'm like, well, then I can't help you. It's that simple. Now, if you do want to bring a case against a cop or even someone who ripped you off or someone who even caused a car accident, but it wasn't a big injury, try to always resolve it in advance. The courts want to see that you made a good faith effort to try and do what we call a Starbucks, which basically means go have a cup of coffee and try to work it out amongst yourselves. And so in California, we call that a Starbucks meeting. We also call it meet and confer. So it's called a meet and confer, where you try to meet and confer, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have to do it in person. You could do it in a letter. You could do it over the phone. It's just called meeting and conferring. All right. Now, let me see here. And everybody, I'm saying hi here. Hey, Crispy Bacon. Hey, Jeff. Hey, Wayne Jones. So you always want to try and resolve it and mediate it. Courts love that because they hate you clogging up their calendar when you could have resolved it. Now, you want to visit the court website because you want to file your claim, right? So you want to visit the website, whether it's either Texas or California. You want to make sure you fill out the forms properly and you want to provide all the required information. Now, you may have a case against the government may require like a 6-month government claim filing. So you need to make sure you understand that. You can't just file a claim in small claims court unless you followed the procedural guidelines for bringing a case, depending on the type of defendant they are. So by contract, for example, if you have a cruise ship contract, you'll be required to give notice under the terms and conditions of what that contract was. If it's claim against government, typically you're going to have to file a government claim with the agency on the agency's form within 6 months of the date of your injury or the date that you first gained knowledge of the injury. Like, let's say you're in a coma, right? Or you just turned 18 and now you're at the age of majority where you could sue for something that happened to you when you were a kid. So there's other ways that the statute might be told, but that is very rare. Now, obviously you want to make sure you fill out the forms right. Now, one of the good things you got going for yourself being a pro se or pro per litigant is that the Court of Appeals, at least federally, and the states also really, have a duty to ensure that pro se litigants do not lose a fair hearing on the merits of their claim due to ignorance of technical or procedural requirements. That is Balistreri versus Pacifica Police Department. I believe that is a Ninth Circuit case. I'm trying to remember. But anyways, you could look it up. There's state law cases that cite it, I think even in Texas. So it's a pretty solid case. It just means that if you screw up on some technical issue, you should be all right. But substantively, you cannot screw up. You got to be right on the substantive law. But if you mess up on a procedure, they'll give you a little bit of a pass on that. So keep that in mind as well. Now, you want to serve the defendant. I know in California, we can use what's called the mailbox rule. That means if I say I dropped it in the mail in small claims court, that is valid service. However, there are ways to argue it was invalid service. And so I always recommend that you use a process server or a certified mail because, you know, some of these defendants are real scumbags and they'll figure out a way to try to quash the service or say they never got served. And since the courts favor hearing on the merits of the claim, they're typically not going to go ahead and grant a default judgment anyways. They're going to want you to make best efforts to get a hold of that person and bring them before the court. So just make sure you follow the procedures and just try to get it in their hand so you can prove it, because that's just one more thing you don't have to deal with later down the road. Roger that. Let me look in the sidebar here. Hey, KT, good seeing you. Great picture. I love the sultry look. I think I've seen you here before. So I give me a bunch of ones if KT is the hottest visitor in our chat today. Thank you very much, everybody. All right. Now, prepare your case, organize your evidence, and plan your argument. Prepare a concise statement of facts and a legal basis for your claim. That's super important. And consider witnesses, testimony, and expert statements if they apply. Now, that's where you're going to run into trouble because the cost of expert witnesses and the way that small claims courts are set up, they really just want to look at the paper, and whoever's got the most is usually going to win. That's really what it's about, in my opinion. Now, at your court appearance, you want to dress professionally. Always, always, always wear a suit and tie. Don't look like a scumbag. Even when I do my shows for you guys, I always try to at minimum wear a collared shirt and a sports coat because that's who I am. I'm a lawyer. And so I need to present the image of a lawyer. And if you are a litigant, you need to present the image that you're a litigant who's serious about your rights. So present your case clearly. Don't say acts instead of ask. Use proper English and be very well reasoned in your arguments. Don't become argumentative. Never, ever, ever argue with the judge, ever. Don't argue. Always let the judge speak. If you're like me, sometimes you feel an urge to speak because you're going to forget what you were going to say, right? I give you a bunch of ones if you've had that. Man, I got to say it or I'm going to forget. So you have a yellow notepad. That's all you do. You take a yellow notepad and you just write all your notes. That's what I do. Just carry that with you everywhere you go. And as soon as the judge starts talking and you think you're going to get thrown, put number one and write down what the judge says, right as she's talking or he's talking, and write down your counter argument, because you're going to forget if you don't do it right then and there. So you just got to do it. And then you could always stop the judge and say, Your Honor, I just wrote down this observation. Could the court please repeat the last 5 or 6 sentences? And the court will do that. And the court will respect you because you're not even a damn lawyer and you're doing things that a trained attorney would do. And so we can do a show also where I teach you guys how to deal with the court, how to deal with the staff, how to respectfully deal with the bailiff and the court team so they recognize you're not a threat. That's a big deal too, because they're just going to assume that most pro per litigants are psychos and crazy people. That's just what government employees do. So I need you guys to be thinking that way. You better start thinking like the Marines would say. Now, yeah, a bunch of ones. Give me a bunch of ones. Thanks, Crispy Bacon. Oh, Wayne Jones says, I'm not sure about that. I'm an AZ and I'm also pretty hot. Well, I was talking about like the hotness of KT, like the sultry, attractive picture. I'm sure my wife is going to serve me with divorce papers if she sees this episode. So I'll just try to move on to something else here. So hold on. Give me 1 second here. I'm looking at I hear my cell phone blowing up. I hope it's not her. Oh, crap. Be honest and straightforward. Stay calm and composed. Respect court procedures and the judge. That's super important. So if you tell the bailiff that they're a pig, even if they snatch a phone out of your hand, there's a chance that the judge is going to be infuriated and look for a reason to blow your case out, or even find you in contempt of court. It doesn't help your cause. Sugar will always get you more than salt. And also, like I try to tell you guys, one of the things that I really appreciate about my Jewish friends is that in public, they always present a united front. They never show any fractures in their relations. But then I go to their homes and they all hate each other's guts. Not all of them, but they're real legalistic. They argue with each other, at each other's throats. But in public, they always look like they are united. And so you have to be the same way. If you're a scatological thinker, you're an army of one, you have to be united in your thought processes. You cannot be scatological with a judge. If you have somebody there with you, a family member, a friend, be united. If they make a mistake, don't attack them, help them. Always show a united front. Very important to a court and to a judge. And you can learn that from watching other people who are more experienced and watching how they behave. And so I had the opportunity from having become a lawyer on the law study program of actually going to court almost on a daily basis and working with judges, working with litigants. When I was with the prosecutor's office, opposing the motions to suppress evidence and meeting all of the defense attorneys, learning from them, becoming friends with them, seeing that we're not all enemies and trying to develop relationships. So you can do that. And I can give you advice on how to deal with that as well. But being honest, always be straightforward. Don't beat around the bush, be brief. Brevity is brevity. It's like less is more. It'll get you more. It'll get you further with the court. Now, if you win, follow up on collecting the judgment. If you lose, consider your options for an appeal or further action. So there's still places you can go with this, but no, you typically can't file a pure civil rights case in Texas or California small claims court. Now, the jurisdictional limits in Cali right now is $12,500 or up to $6,250 if you're a business. Problem is you're not entitled to a lawyer. So the upside is if you were able to get $12,500, well, with a lawyer, they'd get a third of that. So think about it that way. You're actually saving yourself a lot of money. Why am I helping you do this? Because I'd rather help you do this so you trust me and you know that I'm not just trying to get your freaking money, and that when you really are in a pinch and have a really big case that you just can't handle yourself, I know that you'll remember me. And that is the way that I get my cases, guys. I don't get my cases from spending a lot of money on advertising or even from YouTube videos. I get my cases because I help people and they remember that I helped them, and they remember that I was a Marine and that I have an ethos that I live by, that do or die ethos, and that I always make best efforts to keep my word. And so that is why I've been successful as a lawyer and successful in life, as a matter of fact, because people know that they can rely on me. But if you rub me the wrong way, I won't be the most reliable guy. Let's definitely be honest about that. Now, the next thing that I want to do is I want to show you guys, and of course, I'm going to get into it with you in a second as well. But I've got this Chris Haskins video, and this dude is really good, and I'm super impressed by him. Now, he's not California or Texas, but rather than me do like a full-on video about evidence and how to build your small claims case, right now I just gave you the framework of whether or not you can bring one. But now I'm going to show you sort of the underpinnings and the nuances of how to bring a successful case. And then I'm going to get into some stuff that I found on Quora. A lot of you people don't know I'm a big fan of Quora, and I've been on there for years, and I like Reddit and Quora better than Google, to be honest with you, as far as a source of information. So we'll get into some stuff that I found on Quora about this guy who sued like thousands of people, like for police abuse and all kinds of stuff. If you don't believe me that you can sue a cop in small claims court, because I'm going to show you a guy who's done it, and I'm going to show you how to get a hold of him if you don't believe me, because transparency is what I want this to be about. I want you guys to see that I'm not just making stuff up. So, but really quick here, let's look in the sidebar. Where do I find Quora? I don't know, Jeff. Quora. Yeah, hold on a minute. Let me show you, bud. I'm going to show you real quick. I don't know. You see that up on my screen there? It says Quora. Let me see if I can blow this thing up a little bit. And by the way, guys, I am paying attention, by the way, to the sidebar. It's hard to be everywhere. But so this guy, I'll just show it to you now. His name's Robert Gardner. He sued over 1,000 people in 5 states in the last 4 years. And he's done it all using small claims court. So, and we'll get into his story in a minute. But anyways, so what I'll do, guys, is this is how I meet a lot of people like Chili, for example. I'll find something on Reddit or Quora. I'll find someone who's interested, and I'll reach out and I'll just be like, hey, man, I really like your story. Let's collaborate. Let's do a story together. Let's come on a YouTube with me. Let's talk about this because I think that people deserve to know about their rights. And this is somebody who's done it. So I believe in learning from people who've done it. You know what they say about teachers and professors, those who can do, those who can't teach. And I challenge you to find a multi-million-dollar trial attorney or a litigator who's a teacher. I challenge you to do that for me. Good luck. You're going to typically find people who are media hounds, who've never tried a case or litigated a matter in their life. Hey, how's it going, Chad Crum? And it is tiny, Jeff. It is Quora, though. So let me just get into Chris Haskins. Now, does anybody have any questions before I get into Chris Haskins about what I'm trying to say? I'm saying, yeah, y'all might have, because I'm a Texas lawyer, so I got to say y'all once in a while, but y'all might have a case against the cops, against the police for a dadgum civil rights case. But guess what, guys? That civil rights case may cost you more to bring than your case is actually going to be worth to a jury. So you don't always have to file a case as a civil rights case to get justice. You could bring a battery or a negligence claim into small claims court and especially if you're not seriously injured, rather than impaneling a jury, paying jury fees and all that other crap. I'm telling you guys, y'all think that bringing these cases are easy. It's not. It's very time consuming. It's very expensive. It costs a lot of money, and you got to pay that money back at the end of your case. And so it's so hard for me to reason with you stubborn folks who just think you know everything. Because I used to think like y'all too, but you don't know everything. And so when you come to me and act like you know everything, I'm just like, well, there's the door. You already know everything. You don't need my help because I'm not going to put my law license on the line just because you think you know everything. But now that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at what Chris has to say, and then I'll intermittently stop. But I want you to see right now, I've given you the opportunity to see whether or not you could bring a case, under what conditions you might bring it. And now what Chris is going to do is he's going to break down the nuances of how to bring the case successfully. So here we go.
You're going to have to understand how it is to go to court. Since I've been in the real estate business since 2004, I've been to court. I can't even count how many times, and I've won every time, right? So today I'd like to talk to you about the 5 things that I do every time to prepare to go to court. And so we can relate to the judge and win your case in small claims courts. Okay, let's do it. Greetings, class. It's Chris Haskins with TheRealEstateRoundup.com. My mission and ministry is to raise your financial literacy through.
And by the way, guys, make sure to like and subscribe to his channel. I never knew the guy until a couple days ago when I started checking out his channel. The guy's a pretty legit dude. He's in real estate, and I think he's a Christian. He seems to be a real honest, reliable guy. So I definitely recommend you check him out.
Real estate investing in entrepreneurship. So today I'd like to take you on a small journey with my life as we teach you how to win in small claims court. I've studied this stuff for years and been to court. I can't even count how many times. So today you got to know what you're doing before you show up in the court case. Being in business or being an entrepreneur, there's bound to be a time where you have a disagreement with somebody regarding money, right? Regarding money. Greg Penio, my mentor, used to tell me, Chris, if you think people that you're dealing with are going to treat money the way you do, you've got another thing coming. And I've learned that over time. We treat people's money and time with the utmost respect, but we can't always rely on that for the other person, right? So today I'm going to give you 5 things that has allowed me to win in court every time I go.
So one of the things that he's sort of in a veiled way sort of saying, guys, is every business transaction that you engage in with someone, and it could be even a police interaction, get documentation, document everything. Just like Rick Jones, he says, never not record police, never don't record police. Same thing with a business transaction. Let's say you rent a limousine and now they're trying to say that you threw up in the back seat, but you know that you didn't, and they're trying to withhold your security deposit. Well, photographs, always photograph the inside of that. Document in writing, when you do your sheet, that there was no throw up in the back. Evidence, evidence, evidence. Document everything. So when you're doing a transaction with someone to sell them something, document in writing, when the date that they're receiving the item, that they received the item, if they received it, they signed for it, they initial it. So you dot your I's and cross your T's. He's kind of showing us that. And by the way, this guy's not a lawyer, okay? And just keep in mind, guys, you don't have to be a lawyer to know the law, okay? The law schools and all that thing, to a large degree, in my opinion, are a sham. You can become a lawyer without a law degree. You can become more educated than the most educated professor, and you'll see that the most successful people in the world didn't go to college. You'll see that they're like an Elon Musk, or that they're like a Bill Gates. The most successful people, like those guys, usually hire someone who went to college, because the people who went to college show that they're really good at showing up. So it shows they're somewhat reliable. But a degree is meaningless to me. I think it's a worthless piece of paper. And the way your real degree in life is being reliable and being honest and trustworthy in all things that you do, being courteous, considerate, and kind. Most of my cases come from people who have hired me in the past, mainly Marines. Most of my clients were Marines, because they know that they can trust me, and they know that I'll keep my word. Once I accept your case, they know that I'm going to be available by phone 24 hours a day. And so it's the relationship and the reputation. And that's what I want you guys to understand. This guy has figured it out.
Right? And we'll touch on a little bit of eviction court, but we've got another video for that coming up. Today is more or less on when people have a problem or discrepancy with money, right? So the first thing is dates, roundup, dates. You got to really get into the judge's head when you show up to court. Get into their shoes. You got to paint a picture for them, right? So every time I start off, when you go up, Your Honor, he's going to say, sir, plead your case. Well, Your Honor, on June 25th, I can remember like it was yesterday, this dude I loaned $4,000 to. We were buying and selling cars. I just put up the money. He was going to bring the car and do the work. The car needed more work than we thought it. The car needed more work than he thought it was going to be. So the guy just figured he'd walk away with my money. I don't take it to the streets. I take it to the judge, right? So, Your Honor, June 25th, I loaned the money to boom, boom, boom. We did this. This is the date that he said we're going to do. Boom. So the date. The next time on July 8th, he said this, boom, boom, boom. So dates. Go back to the beginning. When did this agreement start? The judge loves dates.
That's right, guys. So keep that in mind. So the way it was explained to me by a lawyer who's no longer with us is that the judge is a black-robed taskmaster, and all they care about is clearing their calendar. And so if you can catch their attention for a few seconds, they may give you some consideration. It's just like in sales, guys. You get them to say yes 3 times, you're going to make the sale. The way you get the judge to say yes 3 times is to argue your salient points and get the court to nod their head in agreement. And so just keep on listening to this guy. I think that this guy, what's his name again? Chris Haskins, legit right here. Check it out.
If you watch any judge channel on TV, you'll see, when did you meet with him? When? Dates. Always have dates when you go into the judge, because the judge is going to be back. Okay, well, what was I doing at that time? You have to plead your case. They know, okay, well, was it cold, high, was it spring, so they know. So your case will make sense when you show up, right? It's locations. The next thing is locations. Let the judge know where you met. Well, Your Honor, we met at the McDonald's.
Okay, and so this is important for a lot of reasons. But remember, so where you file a lawsuit, it can depend on the diversity of parties. And this is something we can talk about in one of my civil procedure courses that we do with my paid members. But the idea is, well, let's say you entered into a contract at a McDonald's in Arizona, and you're trying to bring a lawsuit in California. Well, the court's going to look at that and go, well, unless the contract was for something in California and there's total diversity, the judge is going to have questions. And so you're going to be able to help answer all those questions with your dates. So locations and dates, are a real big deal. Where you met and when you met, that's all really important. And it also could be in your contract, that the contract stipulates that California or Texas is going to be the situs where you have to bring a case. And if you have a contract, it may say that all cases have to be resolved by mediation under the mediation or arbitration rules, and therefore the judge may not even allow you to bring the case in small claims court. So just bear with me, because I want you to understand some of the underpinnings of what this guy's doing.
On Mercury Boulevard, when we met over here at the Starbucks, and when we talked about this, boom, boom, boom. Well, I met him in front of the house. He came over to my house, and we talked about ABC. That way, it seems more real when you're talking to the judge. So the judge is like, okay, this has the air of legitimacy. I remember when I met people, the judge asked me, where did you meet him at? Because sometimes your defendant will lie. They'll say, well, Your Honor, I never met him. Then you could say, well, we met, boom, boom, boom. I remember because XYZ was there too. I remember it was raining that day, and it was a big storm. It was a car crash right up the street. So you're making the air of legitimacy when you meet with the judge, right? So the judge is going to say, does this sound real? So the truth just has a ring to it. And you're going to back your truth up by having the dates and locations. The next thing is your story. What is your intent? What was your intent when you started this ordeal, right? Well, Your Honor, when I met with him, my understanding was boom, 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 right? And as we started to talk about this, he showed me the car, he showed me the repairs, here, the picture.
So we've done a little course on contract law already, but so by him talking about this, he's showing meeting of the minds, right? Because you can't have a contract unless there's a material meeting of the minds, right? Like if I think that you're selling me A, but you think you're selling me B, well, clearly there's no meeting of the minds. So this is really important for a contract case. And that's what he's speaking to, is more of a contract case. But it's equally clear that in a battery case or a negligence case, you're still going to have to talk about, where you were injured, what body parts were injured, what medical proof that you have to prove up your injury. You're going to have, medical evidence from a doctor. The doctor's report has to say, the patient visited me on such and such a day. Patient claims he was hit in the head by a police baton and that he was knocked unconscious, et cetera, et cetera. That has to be in the medical report. That is the nexus of how your injury happened. Even better if an ambulance takes you away, because you can prove you're at the incident scene. Because many personal injury claims and civil rights claims have been found to be fraudulent, like made up, like swoop and SWAT, where they'll have some guy rear end you and then leave, and then you'll go after your uninsured motorist. That kind of stuff happens all the time. So you're trying to show the material differences and similarities in your case to what a legitimate case would look like. And so again, this guy's talking more contract, but you can do very similar when it comes to an injury. So let's keep going.
Here's the picture of the car. So it kind of looks like your story. You're painting a picture once again for the judge. The judge loves pictures, because you got to think about all the other people that are going to come into court. Well, Your Honor, I think it was around December 8th, or maybe it was, just give me, then the judge will go, just give me what month it was, right? And you come in December 8th, 4:00 p.m. we met. Oh my goodness. The judge is going to love you. They are going to love you when you have
credibility too. Under the law of evidence, it shows more credibility. This guy knows what he's talking about, right? When you had it in your power to produce stronger and more powerful evidence, but you failed to do it, that gives the court or a jury the right to view everything you say with distrust.
your stuff together, and you don't require them.
That's evidence code section 412 in California, by the way, guys.
To do a lot of thinking and putting in missing parts. The judges hate it when you have to put missing parts. Okay, we have to presume or assume where you met here, what were you doing at that time, what date. They cannot stand it. That's why people lose their court cases. Dates, locations, stories. What was your intent? Well, my intent was I thought we were going to do boom, 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 boom. You're painting that what you thought mentally. So when your defendant comes back, well, Your Honor, this is what I thought. You got a story. And your story is backed up with these three. The next thing is documents. Round up documents, electrical documents or hard documents. Either one nowadays is cool, right? E-docs, text messages and emails, all that mess. Documents. Every time we do a deal with somebody, we've got documents, right? You signed here, and that document already has the date on it. So they sound, but sometimes defendants will say,
okay, so just really quick, I want to drop in on, so, okay, he's talking about documents for a contract. Okay, same thing. You want to prove up an injury that a cop beat you up. Okay, your documentary evidence would be the body cam footage that he had or she had, as well as your own cell phone camera footage. So you would have to authenticate that evidence under penalty of perjury that it's authentic. And you'd have to show that there was no break in the chain of custody, right? Like nobody else had their hands on that film or on that access to your tapes, right? So you can show that it's authenticated, hasn't been altered. So there's a procedure to get stuff into evidence, very similar. So he's bringing his documentary evidence to show a contract, to show certain things happened, to make that contract valid and enforceable. In your case, you would be showing you're trying to prove up an injury of an altercation with a cop, handcuff case, beating case, shooting case, whatever it might be. But it's the documentary evidence that's important, not just documents, quote unquote, but documentary evidence. Documents and things is what we call them under the California Code of Civil Procedure. So here we go for more.
Say, well, that's not my signature. Oh, I signed that under duress. That's why you have your intent. Gotta have your intent. The documents, where, Your Honor, my intent, well, back to the intent. The story around it was I thought we were going to do boom, 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 boom. And here's the document that explains what I thought. And you show that to the judge, they're going to look at it, and they're going to ask the defendant, well, what did you think? And sometimes people can, when they look at a document, the reader can interpret it differently, right? People can interpret words differently. So when you got your docs and they signed it, and text, keep a trail. Text messages and email, if you can. Text messages and email. Keep that stuff just in case. Every time I do a transaction with a business person, I always think in my mind, am I going to have to prove this? Keep it. Boom, boom. Date, email came in. This date, text message came in. Just what you're doing before you show up in the court case.
I mean, this guy's good. This guy's good. You know what he's doing? Hold on. He sounds like a lawyer. Like every meeting I have, every text message I send, that stuff's getting documented. I'm going to get all this stuff handled. There's a lot of lawyers who don't even do that, guys. So that's what I'm trying to tell you. People have holes in their game. Don't be that person. If you're going to do this, follow these instructions. Now it looks like I probably accidentally backed it up, but let's see if I can get us close to where we were.
Require them to do a lot of thinking and putting in missing parts. The judges hate it when you have to put missing parts. Okay, we have to presume or assume what you meant here. What were you doing at that time? What date? They cannot stand it. That's why people lose their court cases. Dates, locations, stories. What was your intent? Well, my intent was I thought we were going to do boom, 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 boom. You're painting that what you thought mentally. So when your defendant comes back, well, Your Honor, this is what I thought. You got a story. And your story is backed up with these three. The next thing is documents, roundup. Documents, electrical documents or hard documents. Either one nowadays is cool, right? E-docs, text messages and emails, all that mess. Documents. Every time we do a deal with somebody, we've got documents, right? You signed here, and that document already has the date on it. So when they sign, but sometimes defendants will say, well, that's not my signature. Oh, I signed that under duress. That's why you have your intent. Gotta have your intent. The documents, where, Your Honor, my intent, well, back to the intent, the story around.
So Jeff, I don't think anybody accused this guy of being a lawyer, but Jeff did make a comment, electrical documents. I think what this guy meant is electronic documents, like text messages and electronically stored items and things. I don't think he means like electrically charged documents. You're killing me, dude. Hey, what's going on, Rights On? Good seeing you. Hey, by the way, guys, thanks everybody for showing up, like Will Rockstar, KT, Alan Hubbs, Let's OTVO, Chuck P. I really appreciate it that you guys show up on a Sunday like this and hang out with me. I don't know that I'm going to be able to go live on Monday. I'm super busy trying to build the case. So I wanted to get as much stuff down as I could today. But I appreciate y'all showing. And we're going to go ahead and keep listening to this guy, this Chris Haskins. By the way, make sure to like and subscribe to Chris Haskins. I don't know the guy, but I really think that people who have proven themselves meritoriously deserve recognition. And this is a great video.
around it was I thought we were going to do boom, 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 boom. And here's the document that explains what I thought. And you show that to the judge, they're going to look at it, and they're going to ask the defendant, well, what did you think? So sometimes people can, when they look at a document, the reader can interpret it differently, right? People can interpret words differently. So when you got your docs and they signed it, and text, keep a trail. Text messages and email, if you can. Text messages and email. Keep that stuff just in case. Every time I do a transaction with a business person, I always think in my mind, am I going to have to prove this? Keep it. Boom, boom. Date, email came in. This date, text message came in. Just keep it there. That way you have proof of, you just got a timeline. Last one is timeline. So when you show up, you can say, Your Honor, on this date we did boom, boom, boom. On this next date here, we did boom, 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 X, Y, Z. And you're building. So what happens is the judge wants to have this full picture. So every time I have a tenant, right, even with my for eviction court, if they pay late, I have a little ledger. I put it in there. Boom, they were late this day. They called for repair this day. Boom. So you have, when you show up, you've got all these little dates. You got 10 or 20 dates on a piece of paper. Well, Your Honor, we met here. You can show them. And the judge is going to look at you. You've painted a full timeline since the first time that you communicated or you established this agreement. You've got a timeline. Well, we did this on this day. Boom, we did this. We did this. Next time we did this. When I met him here at the McDonald's, we talked about ABC. Oh, I'm telling you guys, this is how you win court cases every time. This is how I've done it since 2004. I remember before I learned this stuff, I used to show up to court. Your Honor, what was in June or July? What year was that? I don't know. They cannot stand it. And you are going to lose your case. You're going to lose. If you don't have, at least, if you don't want to pull all this stuff together, at least have your dates. At least have your dates. The timeline, if you look at all my rental properties, you open up the folder, I've got a piece of paper. Boom, they were late rent. They called for a repair. They wanted me to fix this lot. Because in real estate with tenants, some of the repairs are not covered. Like if you break our lock, that's not, you lose your key. I have to charge you to come out there. So I've got a lost key. This date we went out there, we fixed the lock. And then when they move out.
I mean, obviously everybody hates property managers, right? Like landlords, because usually they're just total jerks, but you can see, this guy at least knows what he's doing and he keeps accurate records. So I wouldn't want to go up against this dude.
I can take that off of the security deposit if they don't want to pay for the $50 change of key or lockout fee or whatever. So timeline, boom, 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 boom. Have your timeline down. Judges love it when you're prepared. So listen, guys, take a few seconds and subscribe to the channel. Like this content and share with any other investors or any other business people. There's going to come a time if you're in business that you're going to have a disagreement or someone's not going to treat the money like you think they should have treated it, or someone's going to just.
So if that's the case, then you need to hire him. Basically, I think that's the way that goes, which is fine because I think he would do a great job. Now, again, full disclosure, never met the guy. Don't know who he is. I'm not trying to promote him or anything like that other than, I like him and I think you should check him out and probably like and subscribe to him. But so I was doing this research to try to figure out what's the advantage? Like is this going to be, why even waste your time going to small claims court, right? And like a lawyer won't take your case. So that must mean it's no good. No, quite the opposite. It probably means that it's just the kind of case that might succeed in small claims. Remember, a lawyer is going to get at least a third, right? And a lawyer doesn't want to fund a case that's going to cost, thousands and thousands of dollars when you don't have a catastrophic injury. You don't have any medical evidence showing psychological injury. You don't have any proof that you ever told your doctor that any of this stuff is a result of your altercation with a cop, or for that matter, you getting knocked off your bike by a car 2 months ago that you never mentioned until today. And now you want to bring an insurance claim. I mean, those are not believable cases. They're not cases a jury's going to go along with. And certainly an insurance adjuster isn't going to pay on that. They're probably going to send you to SIU, which is their special investigations unit. So just remember that. I mean, the insurance company is not your friend. Their job isn't to try to give you money. And if you give them a reason, they'll try to paint your claim as fraudulent. And if it looks fraudulent, it probably is. I mean, they're pretty good at spotting this stuff, guys. They're professionals at spotting fraud. And and unjust and unfair things, because that's how they make their money, is spotting exposure and risk. So they're good at it. So, but now, can you bring a small claims case for like maybe a cop beating you up? Well, according to Robert Gardner over at Quora, who I follow, he sued over 1,000 people in 5 states, over 1,000 people. And he's saying that the typical amounts vary from $3,000 to $12,000. We saw that Texas has a higher one than California. And California has one that's even lower if you're a business bringing a claim. So businesses get treated badly in California. We already know that. That's why so many people are leaving California, right? Now, so basically, most district courts or superior courts in California have a jurisdictional limit of around 25 grand, if y'all understand what that means. It means that if you have a case that's for less, you have to file it in a lower court, where there's different rules that apply to make it more streamlined. So typically the less exposure you face, right, financially or crime-wise, like, that's why like a misdemeanor is going to be less jail time than a felony, if this is making sense. Hopefully it is. Give me a bunch of ones if this is making sense. But if you face a little bit less exposure, the rules will be more relaxed. Like in a misdemeanor, you may get a trial by judge as opposed to a trial by jury because there's less exposure. Like in a civil case, if there's less monetary exposure, you're going to have different rules that may apply in a lower jurisdictional courthouse, or you may even go to small claims court, So, because in California, we have limited and then unlimited. So unlimited is any amount. I think limited is 25,000 or less. They may have raised it recently. I'm not sure. Got to check that out. And then we have small claims. Small claims is for claims that are usually, used to be like 10,000 or less. I know it went up to like 12, unless you're a business. Now it's around 6. We covered that in the slideshow at the beginning. But this guy basically has sued for things like dereliction of duty, gross negligence, willful disregard. And he's brought these as government claims, and he's been successful at it. So he's even done an unlawful arrest claim. So let me just show you real quick. So he did one claim for unlawful arrest, which he filed within the statute of limitations. So he knows what he's talking about, right? At least it sure does look that way, doesn't it? He filed one against a detective where he omitted material evidence regarding charging statement duplicity and biased prejudicial reports and all this stuff. So guys, I just want you to understand something. I mean, there is a way to get judged. So don't let all these dudes on YouTube who think they know the law, who don't, try to convince you that you have to file a civil rights lawsuit. Like you get civil rights lawsuit on the brain. Guys, you don't always have to sue for civil rights. And if you do, it's going to be under the federal civil rights laws and ADA and all these other claims and all this other nonsense. And guess what? If you don't have a lawyer, you don't get attorney's fees unless you got an attorney. All right. So if I represent myself in a civil rights case, I don't get attorney's fees, even though I'm an attorney. I've got to hire a lawyer if attorney's fees are going to be paid. I hope you guys are understanding that. So it's almost kind of pointless, because the advantages of bringing a civil rights claim are things like attorney's fees, right? That's a big thing, because some civil rights cases aren't like a train accident where 1 million people got killed and families were displaced. It could just be that someone was falsely arrested and has an injury to their hand. Well, a jury might give you $50 for that, right? You don't know. But with the attorney's fees component, that makes those cases more attractive for a civil rights lawyer to take. The problem is, if there's not now the courts are trying to tie the attorney's fee to the underlying award. I hope this is making sense. So as a lawyer, I know if I take a civil rights case and it's not a big hit, that my attorney's fees are going to probably get reduced or taken away unless I get a significant award. And you can think guys like Stephen Yagman, Yagman. He's a guy who I knew when I was first becoming an attorney. Take a look at him. I think it's Stephen Yagman. And he was one of these guys who would win these cases against LAPD and get a $1 award for his client, because his clients were unlikable, usually like thugs, gangsters. Juries hated him. But then he'd get his attorney's fees. So he might get $1 million attorney's fees for a $1 award. And eventually I think he got disbarred, and I think he got jailed for doing that. But now the bars have come down really hard. And so it's really made it hard for people with legitimate civil rights claims to get a lawyer, because they're like, well, damn, if your case isn't worth that much, I'm not even going to get an attorney's fee out of this. And it's costing me, $20,000 a month for my firm, plus my malpractice insurance. So there's no way I can afford, like, I would have to do this case for free and fund it out of my own pocket. And so again, guys, that's another reason why small claims might be good. And then also a bigger reason why we need to form our own parallel systems, and maybe even have some kind of an insurance fund put together for auditors, where there's money set aside to help these people who are falsely arrested, falsely imprisoned. And that was something also that I was trying to work on with Dick Heller in Chile, because there is in fact a way to do this, but I need more people than just me in order to make that happen. Because the things that I do as an activist have nothing to do with what I do at work from my 9 to 5. Okay. I do these things to try to help people on my own dime, in my own time. And if, as a general rule, if it's not one of these big catastrophic cases, I'm going to have to find a home for it for you to try to help you. So that being said, Paul, good seeing you. I don't know about any kind of, I don't know what frauditor means. Let me see here. And then KT, it's a vicious circle. And then conditionally accepted. I know there's like this big thing. I got to learn more about this bars control the system thing. So originally, just so you guys know, the court system, the lawyer system that we adopted under American common law came from the Inns of Court. And so the Inns of Court, the original Temple Inn, was manned by the Knights Templar. And at some point, there was a rift between the King of England and the Pope. And because the Pope basically had priests and papal law, and they had ecclesiastical law, and pretty much everything, all the law courts were from the Roman civil law era. Basically, the Roman law was carried over into ecclesiastical courts, basically. So basically, Roman civil law was managed throughout all of the different kingdoms by the Pope. And of course, kings hated that, because kings were sovereign and they got their power from God. And so the kings developed their own law, but it only applied to what's called the King's Bench. And so that's American common law, English common law. Originally, the King's Bench was created as the king's bulwark against the Pope's law. And the common people had no law unto themselves. And ultimately, the king said, no longer will we have lawyer training allowed within the gates of the city of London. In other words, no more Catholic lawyers within the city of London. That's basically what he was saying. No more of the Pope's people in the city of London. And so they all took refuge in the Knights Templars temple. I believe it was called the Temple Inn, or the First Temple, or something like that. And of course, there was a chain that went across the gate, and that was called the bar. And so a lot of people believe that's where the word bar comes from. And so there's other areas called the bar as well, almost like Freemasonry when you think about the terminology. But basically, the Inns of Court system was established as a way to teach these new lawyers the common law. So it went away from the Pope's law into what's called common law, and where these new advocati or advocates started coming up with their own legal systems to help the common man. And that all started at the temple. And it was very similar to how you would train up a stonemason. So you would latch yourself onto a judge or a lawyer, and you would sleep in an inn. You would all stay there as a bunch of people, almost like the Marine Corps, right? Like you're in a barracks. And then you'd get up every morning like a squire, and you would tend to the lawyers, cook, whatever you got to do. You'd eat with them, and you'd eat in like a barracks facility where the judges would sit at the head, just like as if you were in court. And ultimately, once you had done this long enough, done the legal work and learned the law, you would stand before a panel of judges or a judge, and they would give you an oral examination. And if you passed, you would be allowed to what's called pass the bar. You would be able to walk through the well and up into where the judges were sitting along with the other lawyers, and you become a member of the bar. And so that was under the Inns of Court system. And so that was separate and apart from the government of England. It was really its own inn within the Knights Templar of lawyers. And ultimately, there were other inns that were created, and some inns did both ecclesiastical law as well as common law. You had ecclesiastical law type inns and then just common law inns. And there was a rift because the Pope wanted to put his religious laws on everything. And well, the king didn't like the Pope, eventually kicked out the Templars from England. And ultimately, over time, this evolved into just what they call common law. And lawyers stayed in the inns system. It just no longer were the Knights Templar involved in it. But ultimately, the lawyers stayed within the Inns of Court system. And that's what really happened. And so all this other stuff about the Bar of England and the BAR, I know there's probably some kind of truth to that. But for someone like me, I'm an American common law attorney. And I became a lawyer on a very similar system where I studied under judges and lawyers and ultimately had to take the same exam as all the other people who went to academic institutions. But I actually was practicing under a lawyer and doing paralegal work. So I was actually doing the hands-on stuff while other people were sitting through lectures. And so a little bit different way of training. I believe the way I was trained is superior because I was able to immediately start making a living as a lawyer as soon as I passed the bar. I didn't have to study under someone. I already knew how to do appellate work. I already knew everything there was to know about it, personal injury law, all the litigation work, summary judgments, discovery, all the motions involved. So it was really, really helpful. So when you talk about the bar, what I'm thinking is it's just like this licensing program that California has. They got their own bar. And I'm pretty sure I've looked at their charter. It's not associated with anything over in England. So I want to know more about what you guys have to say because I need evidence because, as a lawyer, I want to see this evidence, but I'm just telling you, like my any oath that I make is to the Constitution and to my people of America. So, I don't think I will be bound by any unknown agreements between England and any bar that I might be associated with. But yeah, Rights On. I know what you're saying, and I understand a lot of the admiralty law stuff that people talk about. I'm just looking in the sidebar, guys. But I do encourage you guys all to learn the law, and I encourage you to read books by like Thomas Aquinas and Sir William Blackstone, the commentaries on the English law, the classics. And then, come on the weekends and stuff. And I can teach you guys like contracts, torts, and criminal law, general principles. And then ultimately, maybe I can inspire one of you guys or a couple of you to become lawyers, because I believe that the most empowering thing right now at this moment in history for anybody is to be a lawyer. You really can't even do much unless you're a lawyer in this country. Unfortunately, America has become so legalistic. But if you're a blue collar guy like me, it literally enables you to reclaim your blue collar lifestyle by using the white collar lawyerly stuff, because you're able to reclaim the rights that the government has been eroding away over the last, 10 or 15 years, like at rocket ship speed. So now, I don't really have a whole lot more to say about how to bring a small claims case or why you should bring one in Texas or California, other than to say that I believe there are strategic reasons why you should consider it if you have a case that you think might be a civil rights case. And it might be a civil rights case, but it might also be a negligence case. It might also be a battery case. It might also be an assault or a false imprisonment case, as well as a civil rights case. You may not want to go through the hassle of bringing a real expensive civil rights lawsuit in a case where you don't have a significant enough of a damage threshold to make it make monetary sense. And so I would always recommend that you use this formula that I call the Ben Franklin. And I think a lot of other people call it the Ben Franklin because it's the technique that Ben Franklin used. And what you do is you take a paper and you draw a line down and you put the positives and the negatives of what you want to do. And whatever one gets the most check marks, like if it's the most positive check marks, for example, you go with that. You go with that idea. So I would always look at that. Like, if I bring this I'll get a lawyer, if I can even get a lawyer, because the lawyer doesn't want to take it because he doesn't think there's any money in it. to where it makes sense. So cross that out. I'm not even going to be able to get a lawyer, right? Or a lawyer wants money up front. So that's another one, guys. When you get a guy who says, oh, I'll do it, but I want money up front, that means he doesn't believe in the case. Now, if you got one that says, I would do it, but I only take cases on contingency, and I think it's going to cost me more than the potential award, that's the guy you believe and trust, because that's somebody who's got a family they also have to support. So I just don't want you to automatically hate us. Maybe some of them you probably have a right to, but I'm just telling you, there's a lot of logic and math that goes into this, unfortunately. And if I had an unlimited budget, of course I would be taking every case. Absolutely. So I just want you to all think about that. When you're thinking about a small claims case, it may be better just to try and bring a small claims case. And also, look, it may be good just to try and, like, if there's a car accident, you got rear-ended, but it's not a big damages case, right? Or they're offering you like $500 when you should get $1,000, right? The adjuster. Well, you can call the adjuster and go, look, I'm going to small claims then. Well, guess what? Their client now doesn't get an attorney because it's small claims case. So what you've done now is you've just put exposure and risk on their client, the insured. And now their client later on has a potential basis to sue his own or her own insurer for bad faith, for failing to settle within the policy limits and exposing you to just the hassle and risk of going to a trial without having a lawyer to represent you because it's small claims. You guys understand this so far? Give me a bunch of ones if I've beat this issue up enough in the sidebar. Yeah, and then I'm going to do this book. All right. So look, guys, I'm going to I want to do like a little infomercial. So I'm trying to teach my daughter, especially, how to start her own online business. All right. And I do have something that's worth selling. And so I created a digital ebook. It's called, just work with me, guys. It's called My Journey to Becoming a Practicing Lawyer with No Law Degree or Undergrad. And so I have like a prototype book, but the one that I'm selling is an ebook. All right. And this is not the one that's going to be available, but at some point this book will be available at some point for sale online as a soft cover, all right. But right now it's available as an ebook, and it's a book about how I became a lawyer, my journey of becoming a lawyer with no law degree or undergrad. So you can kind of see, it looks kind of cool. And it's the first edition and all that. And so anyways, I'm going to create like a little infomercial out of this video that we're doing right now. So that's why I was kind of showing it to you. I'm not like trying to do a shameless self-promotion so much as I don't want to have to do another video. So anyways, I don't know, man, it's all screwed up now. The heck. Anyways, I guess when I did that, when I put it up like that, it messed up the image. So anyways, that book basically sort of documents a little bit about my journey, sort of like my background, being a Marine, getting injured, having a bunch of businesses, figuring out a way, sleeping on park benches, working for a bunch of different lawyers, being humble, working for free, getting a job at a Home Depot, doing whatever I had to do to make it happen to survive, because my goal was 1000% becoming a lawyer with no law degree, with no undergrad, no nothing. So I took the CLEP, and I talk about how I took the CLEP and how I made it through the program. Now, I have heard that the CLEP and some other things have changed a little bit, and the California baby bar requirements have changed a little bit since I wrote the book. But, I'll update all that later. But I'm showing you my journey, what I had to do. And I also do cover, I think, 3 or 4 states that have a similar law study program in that book. So it's pretty valuable information. And it took me a couple of years to write it. And I know it might not be perfect, but I'm sure you guys will tell me so I can improve it for a second edition. But I'm selling them for, I think, $19.95. And you can go on the homepage of my YouTube channel. And if you look at that video there, right to the right in the description, it says PayPal to get the book. So I'm going to do a video about how to get my book, about how I became a lawyer with no law degree or undergrad. And it's going to be the video that you see right now that's on the homepage of my YouTube channel, that's going to be replaced with this new video that I'm going to do out of what I'm doing right now by talking to y'all. But look at that. So I guess every time I put the book up, it kind of messes up with the lighting. So I hope you guys liked our show today. I didn't have BZ on the last one, but you got an opportunity to check out Robert Gardner, and I'm going to drop the Quora link also for you guys, just in case you want to check this stuff out. I mean, I just try to share things with you that I think are interesting. Like before I was a lawyer, I didn't have anybody to really share stuff with me. And I always had curiosities and questions. And I'm sure you guys probably have asked yourself these types of questions in the past and just never got a straight answer. So at least you got my lawyer's perspective based on Texas and California. And again, if you guys want to learn about how to become a lawyer with no law school or just learn some basic stuff, you can reach out to BZ on Saturdays and Sundays. I wouldn't mind doing for my channel members, at least, like a private class on stuff. We could go over a contract and we could talk about it and, real life examples. I think that's the best way to learn. I don't think sitting in front of a class is necessarily the best way. I think it's better to, questions and answers and stuff like that. Just give me 1 second. Trying to get some of that glare down. Hopefully that's a little better. I mean, my face looked like Frosty the Snowman. Still looks pretty pink, but all right. Anyways, look, guys, I hope that was what part of Texas? Houston, but we're statewide, and I've been licensed in Texas, I think, for about a year and a half. So I'm still starting out slow. I got a tiny little space that I rent, and then I'm trying to expand out into Galveston because I like doing the cruise ship and the diving platform cases, because I have buddies who, were in the teams who are now doing diving platform work. And, if those guys get hurt, I want to be able to help those dudes because I know that I'll do a better job than anybody else. That's the one thing, I can tell you guys also, like if you're a veteran and you're a lawyer, put it out there that you're a vet and you'll go the extra mile because you'll get a lot of business. All right. Batten down the hatches. All right, guys. Yeah, James Smith. I read a lot of NOLO too. And then my website, also elinelaw.com, has a lot of good stuff. Over the last 20 years I've been in practice, I put a lot of really cool blog posts and articles up that you can learn a lot of stuff about. And, injury related or cruise ship law, maritime law, that kind of stuff. Hey, look at this. No way. Somebody just gave me a super chat. What the heck? Who was that? Chad Crum. Thanks, Chad. No way, man. I don't even know, Chad. I don't even know who you are, but dude, that was dope. I really appreciate that because it's not easy, man. I mean, $10 to some people is like $300 to others. And I appreciate that, Chad. That's cool. That'll look, I'm looking at buying this new what's it called? It's like an AI thing that'll edit your videos to make them better, I guess. I don't know. I'm just having a hard time doing all this hand editing, man. It's taking forever. So, and then trying to work. All right. Andre Robinson in Illinois. It's really interesting. I would say about 30% of my audience is from Illinois. It's just the weirdest thing. It's like, there's just this enclave of people who watch my videos for some reason. And anyways, thanks, Chad. I appreciate that. And you're right. It is good work. And I, give a bunch of ones to my kids for helping me do these videos and helping me do the production. I'm really trying to teach them. I really want them to learn how to start their own production company and do marketing and not have to work for someone else. It's really important that kids learn how to run their own business. So we're looking at homeschooling opportunities as well and some other ideas. So thanks for the ones, Dawood. And then, yeah. Thanks, dude. I appreciate it, Goosen. Yeah, and make sure to like and subscribe, but also save the actual, on all my videos, guys, go back also, make sure to save it. That's a really big signal when you actually press the save button. Liking and subscribing is good, but when you do the save thing, that sends a really huge signal that you really like the content and that you want to keep it for later use. And so that's like really huge for me. Oh, no way, Chuck P. Thanks, dude. Wow, man. I thought that people forgot about me, but I appreciate it, Chuck. And I appreciate everything that you guys are doing, trying to educate people about their rights. And I really hope that I can be a positive influence on people in the cop watcher and auditors community to learn more about understanding civility, because showing self-control and it shows that you're in charge, and it takes away the power of a defense attorney or of a prosecutor to paint you as a crazy person. And trust me, that's what they want to do. That is their primary goal, is to try to make you look like a crazy person. So I really want you guys to look at me and understand that I really do want you guys to be careful out there. I don't want to have to get you out of jail. And I would be interested in teaching you guys more if you'll listen, and also forming some kind of a community where, like insurance community or something. Just explore it with me anyways, to where we can help people who are, falsely arrested or having a hard time finding a lawyer. At least we'll have somebody to help them, depending on, where their city and state is. Because I'm getting calls from people like from Uvalde, from Galveston, and all over the place, man. And, and I'm in California is where my business is. And then that's where I do most of my court appearances and just most of my litigation and mediations. And then Texas, very little, so I have to figure this out, like for now, understand that I'm going to have to get help from local counsel and associate them in on some of these cases. It doesn't mean that I wouldn't be lead counsel. It just means that I need boots on the ground. It's just like BZ goes out and does cop watching sometimes on our lives. I've got boots on the ground, so he's able to help me cover stuff in Texas, but I need lawyer help too. I'm one guy, and the lawyers at my firm are focused primarily on like big bus accidents, motorcycle accidents. I just happen to be an activist who believes in civil rights activism, and I want to help, but that doesn't mean that I can do everything. So keep that in mind. Thank you for the super chats, guys. I really appreciate it. We don't stop. And guys, so Chili's case, his appeal is going to be on the 10th, I believe. So check out the court website. Make sure to donate to his channel, pick up some cop cards and some trifolds. Even if you've already got some, buy some more, try to help him out. He's asked me to convey that he appreciates that you guys all want to immediately swarm and see him when he gets out, if he does get out on the 10th, or even when he gets out later, if that's the case. God forbid, that you give him some space and let him have a nice steak and let him take a nice hot shower, or maybe even a bath with some Epsom salts, maybe, I don't know. But like, let the guy square himself away for maybe a couple weeks. And then I promise you guys, and he's already agreed, that we'll be able to have some kind of a coming home ceremony for him at some point, but just not right away. So does anybody have any other questions for me before we call it a day? Yeah, make sure you always have your phone. All right, Rights On. Kisses with Charlie Bear. KT, we don't stop. Give me a bunch of OTVOs. Give me a bunch of ones if you miss Chili. And I guess we'll see you guys hopefully tomorrow night, but maybe not. I'm going to be pretty busy tomorrow, guys. But I'll try to at least do some cool shorts and some regular videos. I'll try to do something cool for you so you have something fun to watch until I can come back on. But I do really enjoy being here and hanging out with you guys, OTVO. Make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save, because we never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel. Semper Fi, do or die.